is he coming or not?
Yeah.
I'll give him 3 minutes.
Okay.
And we'll start.
It's in the tallest.
Eddie's attention span is quite short.
Yeah, it is. Quite sure. What's your name?
He gets it, doesn't he? Don't delay it, right?
10 years time.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the drugs, mate.
Where are you?
The abuse.
I'll be 20 seconds early, but I did have to talk to you.
Right. John will have to just sneak in, won't he? Bit like a bit of cinema. I did make some notes. Hello, you right? Are we ready to go? Yeah, okay.
He's a bit loud, isn't he?
I'm a bit loud.
Yeah, he's a bit loud.
It's charming, isn't it?
A lot of us have got damaged ears from gig going. So.
Yeah, we'll have no heckling, thank you very much, otherwise it would be removed from the premises. Right. Oh, here we go. Can we have some decorum, please? Right, I'm going to start the proceedings. I'm Alex Novak. I was in a band called the Eyesores. It's one of this side up here. Then obviously I went into other bands, Religious Overdose, Tempest. And I'm currently in Venus Flytrap. I also run Spiral Archive Records, because I recognise something from the shop. This is Eddie Branch, who was in a band called Guillotine back in the day. He then went on to be in a band called UK DK, and also played in Pete Murphy's solo band. So that's the kind of background. Anyway, we're going to start firstly by just talking about what happened before punk. So I would have been at Western Faith, well I would have left Western Faith Upper School, but my brother and John Novak, Pete Brownjohn and Jen Clack, who ended up in the Eyesores, were still at school. And I was at art school at the same time as Kevin Haskins, David J and Danny Ash, and various other people ended up in bands. But basically, when I started at art school, which was about 1976, we heard murmurings and stuff happening in London. I think Kevin and that lot seems to be, I know Kevin went to see the Sex Pistols in London about 76, and they seemed to get into bands pretty quickly, like Submerged, 10th, Cardiac Arrest and all that. But literally, I can remember, I think my brother and his friends decided to set up a band, and one day we weren't punks, next day we got a haircut and got some new trousers, and we were punks. And then we sort of started the Eyesores. None of us could play, so none of us came from a musical background. So it's like year zero. And we didn't have any equipment. I think Pete played drums on some Tupperware stuff in somebody's front room. And it was really basic. So, and also, we were quite different in a way because my background, well, my parents were Yugoslav, so we were first generation here. So it was a bit different viewpoint for us. This is where I bring Eddie. Eddie.
Yes.
Before punk, what were you doing?
Well, before punk, we always had music in the house, first of all. Because my dad was a Baptist minister, well not a minister, he looked after the music side, or the church singing. And my mother was also in his little group. And that's where they met, back in Barbados. Then they came over here, they came to London. That's when I was conceived. And then we made our way up from London to Northampton.
Well, that would have been a time when there was like a big overspill, like in the Eastern District was being built, North Everton Development Corporation and all that, that sort of period, the 70s.
Yes, yeah. But we moved straight to Jimmy's End. Don't know how that worked out, but we were in Jimmy's End, and Dad just worked round the corner at the bus station, Corporation, the red bus station. He worked there as a clicker, whatever they call them, and then he progressed to be a driver. And as soon as he got that established, he bought a piano. That was in the house. My two older brothers, they joined us from Barbados as well. They weren't born here, they were born in Barbados. They came over, family got established. My older brother, he excelled, Elson, he excelled at the piano, and I would just listen and follow and do what...
But you never learned to play?
I learned to play a little bit, I had to learn to play a little bit, but he was the one that took off. He was really good at it. And then as time went on, he bought a guitar, and then he bought a bass, and we had these instruments in the house, but I wasn't allowed to touch them. So.
You said to me the other day that everybody would have to go at playing records in the front room.
Yeah, that was something that we used. I don't know how that all came about, but it did after a little while, because my older brothers were bringing in the Beatles and all the all the black music, James Brown, stuff like that. They was playing that stuff in the house, but I wasn't really interested. I listened to it, but I couldn't. It didn't resonate with me. But by the time my time came around, it was Mark Boland, T-Rex, Tyrannosaurus Rex, and I picked up most of that from one lad at school, Tony Baker. He was fascinated with Tyrannosaurus Rex, and we became good
we were big fans of T-Rex.
brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I should just mimic everything he did and just grew to love him.
So, how did you join Guillotine?
Well, that was through just mooching around town, going to the record shops, because I've discovered Roxy Music, and only because of all the artists that played on the album, on the back, the producers, the engineers, the studios that they worked at, I kind of soaked it all up. I don't know why I was doing it, but I was just trying to get my feelers out as to what this music was all about and where it was coming from and who these people were. And out of that, I recognised some of the engineers and producers who seemed to be on a lot of albums at the time, and whether I liked the album or, well, the covers, because you didn't know, there was no listening to the songs at the time. Because it had Connie Plank on it, for instance. Because it had Connie Plank as the engineer or producer, I'd buy it. And I just bought everything that he did, or all the musicians that were connected to him.
Well, I remember a time, they called it proto-punk. So you had like Velvet Underground, Roxy Music, I guess, but Iggy the Stooges and MC5. And there's a whole thing, I forgot his name, but I think there's a guy who used to run a fanzine in the United States called Punk, which had a different connotation. It was more connected with garage bands from the 60s, and he compiled nuggets. I've got his name, but anyway. But there was certainly a lot of music and pointed in that direction. But when did you meet Mike Brown? Who was...
Well, yeah, it's just through going around town, and you just run into people and you talk to them. But he was a person that he kind of ingratiated himself on me, you know what I mean? He just kind of spoke a lot and dragged me around and spoke to me about stuff. He also knew my other brother, so there was a bit of friendship there. But he just decided, yeah, why don't we start a band then? Why don't we just do a band? And it'd be brilliant. It'd be brilliant, we'd love it. I'll tell you what, you can play bass and I'll sing, and we'll just put an advert in for a guitarist. And we'll just pull it together, it'll be easy. And I was going, yeah, all right, Mick, yeah. Okay.
It was that simple, wasn't it? It's like, okay, let's form a band and let's start.
Yeah, but I hadn't played, my brother had a bass, but I didn't play bass. He had a guitar and I didn't play guitar, so I thought, and he just said, I'll just play bass. I thought, my brother's got a bass. Maybe I can...
The big difference is, you know, you started from zero, you didn't have any musical training much.
No.
So you learned as you went along, and also you picked things up by listening to records and things like that.
Absolutely.
But also that made the musicians play things in a different way than they should have done or supposed to. They came up with... sometimes when you're limited, you come up with more interesting ideas because you're limited what you can play.
Yeah, there was certain things that kind of resonated with me. I like the cool way that Mark Bolan, you know, sang his songs, produced his albums, the little groovy little bass lines and vocal lines, harmonies, all that stuff. It was very silky to me. It resonated with me. And then when the punk came along, that was very edgy. There was none of this big, massive studio production malarkey and all this beautiful, colourful playing, you know, and precision starting and finishing. You could hear when the guitars went on or the picks, you know, fumbled. And I thought, this is very earthy. This is normal. This is natural. And I kind of like that.
Right. Okay, we established that. I think first Eyesores gigs we did would have been like the Black Lion, which is now the Wigan Pen, and the Racecourse Pavilion, which Graham put quite a few gigs on there. Yeah, some of the art school parties were there, and obviously Paddocks would have been slightly later. The county was quite important, County Rock, because a lot of touring bands played at the county, so you see the down to the adverts. So you got, but that didn't last too long. But most of the gigs we did at the Eyesores could be interesting. You know, there was always could be a bit edgy. But what was your experience of being in Guillotine at that time, in that scene?
I just thought it was a freedom kind of experience for me, playing. But going to college is where it all started, because I went to college on George's Avenue.
That part was the art school, the other part was more of the technical
engineering side.
Yeah, that's right.
And my Martin, who's sitting at the back there, his dad sent me to college because I worked at his garage. Sent me to college, day release, and from there I picked up all the, read all the posters and that lot, and that's where the Racecourse Pavilion shows were all advertised, and that's where it all started for me. So I thought, oh yeah, I didn't really know anyone, but I thought, yeah, I'm going to go along and see what it's all about. And I was knocked out. I think Pete Murphy and his little band were the first lot that I remember seeing.
About 1919.
1919. And I thought that was really good. There's a couple of kids there I noticed. They weren't very old, but they had paint on moustaches and all sorts. And I thought that was really strange, but it was great. You know, everybody was like clinging together. We all had a lot to say to each other.
Well, that's the thing. Initially, you couldn't buy clothes off the peg. A lot of people make their own clothes and
Well,
or
this-
go to second-hand shops.
This I learned later on, that all the outfits and all their garb and everything that they were producing it themselves.
Yeah, do it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really thoroughly went, I enjoyed that. That was good.
This is the thing about this period. It didn't last very long. I mean, 76 to about 79, a lot of the bands were done. I mean, we played our first gig in early 78, but Icehalls were finished by 1979.
Well, if you look back at it like that, then yes, it wasn't very long. But for us, every single day was an event, And those 18 months or whatever it was that Guillotine existed, you went to sleep thinking about it, you wake up thinking about it.
A lot happened.
A lot happened. Every day you were out meeting people, you'd spot anyone, with green hair or whatever, and you'd say, what's going on, pal? And then, they'd fill you in. You'd help them, pay their bus fare or whatever it is, and we'd tag along, we'd go uptown, see a show. We used to share all the information. And I think when the fanzine started,
that's one thing I did notice after a while. So there was one fanzine in Northampton, Burns Offering, which you can see in the museum. There's copies of it, and also we reprinted in the book we produced. So there wasn't much press. I mean,
no, very little press.
but most people knew what was going on by word of mouth.
Absolutely. We didn't hold anything back. We shared everything. Everybody spoke to each other. Wherever we saw each other, we'd say hi. We'd go over and talk, share your information, drag them along.
We did a few gigs with Guillotine, Icehalls.
Yeah,
definitely Race Course Pavilion.
yeah.
That was a good venue. It was a good venue.
I think the cohesion of the town was much tighter, much closer.
Yeah, because there wasn't that many people into the punk scene, so we all pretty much knew of each other. It changed later, but initially you could count people, quite quickly. There was a hardcore group in the town, but you'd meet a new person. They were from the village, from a village, from outside. And slowly but surely, there was a huge group of us. Because when there was a gig came on, the place would be packed. Yeah. And there was some important places like Rags, which is a clothes shop on Kettering Road, and also Acme Clothing, which was on the Wellingborough Road.
Yeah.
They were quite important in the scene because you could get information on gigs and whatever. And people used to hang out there all the time, especially Acme, yeah.
Well, Acme Clothing, everybody bought from Acme Clothing, or stole from Acme Clothing, whatever they could. Yeah. They kitted us out, they did. Yeah.
There's a plain clothes officer in the audience taking notes.
That's quite all right.
And the other place, you ever go to Beck Studio? I mean, that was quite an important place for a lot of local bands to record at.
I think we did a couple of sessions at Beck's, but we weren't. I personally wasn't into the recording. I like the idea of rehearsing, writing new songs, playing live. You're a big pop star if you're going to go recording, making records and stuff like that.
Because, as I said earlier, Guillotine, it didn't last too long, same with the Icehalls. It kind of ended about 79. Graham mentioned it, I didn't remember this band, but I vaguely remember the MPs.
Yeah, that was after Guillotine dissolved. We had our little differences, and I think there was a quiet patch where we weren't doing very much. And I think the guitarist went off and did some other things, and we were stretching out musically,
Yeah, that's the thing. After the initial kind of burst of energy and
Yeah.
like just doing it, you start thinking about how to structure songs and what trying to progress.
Structure your life, because it was now taken over, you know what I mean? I wasn't, funny, because I wasn't really that interested in being a mechanic much then, in those days, after a little while. No disrespect, Martin. But I can tell you 3 times I was fired from the same job. I got sacked because I wouldn't go to work, staying up late. He says, right, if you do that again, you're out. Toolbox out in the road, gather me stuff, go home. And he did it 3 times. He took me back, sacked me again, took me back, and sacked me again for the final time. The final time, I had a little lull moment, and that's when I joined Pete Murphy.
Oh, we're getting ahead of ourselves here.
But that's the end of that story, you know what I mean?
But in between, so what happened to the MPs? What, that was a speech. It's I definitely remember the end of the ISOs. We were messing about a bit with this, that, and the other, and it never really amounted to anything.
No, the MPs didn't amount to anything. We couldn't get ourselves organised. We couldn't get it together. I say everybody had different minds about what to do, where to go, and how it was all to be.
So literally,
We just fell apart.
Literally from 76 to 79, that would be punk and new wave. And 79, this is when we headed to post-punk. And, punk opened the doors to allowing you to do things. But after a while, it did become a bit of a uniform. Punk was, you could literally go to the King's Road and buy a punk uniform off the shelf because it was being produced for you. And I think post-punk kind of rejected all that. And there's a lot more interesting bands happened in that post-punk era. Even including bands like Crass, but a lot of the kind of more indie bands from in the north, there's a lot going Joy Division and people like that. So that happened very quickly, and also there was a lot more record labels suddenly happened.
Yeah.
I mean, the only one really locally was Graham's label, which was Woodhill Records. I think named after a part of Northampton. And he just literally released one record called single, but I can't think of any other local record labels. But look, you get head into the sort of 1980s, and all of a sudden there's a lot more releases. I mean, my band at that time would have been Religious Overdose, with some ex-art students again, a guy called Richard Formby, who was at art school, and Pete Ramjohn we later got from the high schools. But initially we were using a drum machine, so that totally flummoxed a lot of the punks. I remember we did a gig with the Fall at the Paddocks, and the punks hated it. And I thought, well, you're supposed to be open-minded, but they hated it. And I thought, well, you're doing something right. So, but we pretty much released records straight away with Glass Records from London. And they had a pretty important with Northampton. There's a big Northampton link with Where's Lisa, which is my brother's band after the Eyesores. And then later, the Jazz Butcher would have been on that label, but I'm going ahead here a bit. But Richard was originally from Leeds, and that's one of the reasons that finished was he went back to Leeds, but he ended up being involved with the Telescopes and Spacemen 3 and bands like that. But then this is a period, the interesting period for you as well. Probably the same time as when I was in The Tempest with Mark Reefoy, who was in various bands. But There was that period between punk and post-punk. It was called positive punk. Yeah, it's like bands like, there's a band called Play Dead.
Yeah.
It was kind of that,
Oxfordshire.
yeah, that grey period. And I think UKDK sort of started in that grey area and then was, I suppose, post-punk and then counts as sort of gothic as well.
Yeah, they picked up momentum during that period. After they came back from doing the Dead Kennedys tour in America, that's when I got involved.
So what year did you join UKDK? It must have been about 81 or 82?
Maybe.
It's good to see you, man. You did your research.
It's the drugs, man.
It's certainly, I think it's about 81, 82. I definitely remember UKDK.
Oh, hang a minute. How old were you? Okay. Yeah.
Well, basically UKDK were going before Eddie joined, and then Eddie joined.
Yeah, that'll be 79.
I mean, they're originally from Luton, weren't they? But they played a lot.
79.
They played a lot in Northampton and around the area. So, how did you end up in UKDK?
Yeah, once again, a bit of networking around the town, and some lad says, UKDK looking for a bass player, Ed. And I said, are they? Really? And I thought, well, who were they? But after I investigated and listened a little bit, everybody said, yeah, they were good, and I listened to the stuff, it's pretty good. And I went down for the audition, but that took about a year to unfold, because they went to America with the Kennedys, but when they came back, they gave me the audition, and I got in. So, finished the album with them down at Southern Studios, which is the crass little camp. And it just went from there.
So, how long did that last, and what did you do in that period?
We finished the album and toured the life out of it, which was good. Got myself a nice Trace Elliott amp, same as Youth from Killing Joke, because I thought he had a massive sound, and I want an amp just like his. So that's what I spent all my money on. And then, yeah, that kind of died out. And Furio started.
But you did a lot of stuff with UKDK. How many albums?
We did one album, and we did like 3 EPs,
Yeah.
singles, yeah.
I think we shared a label at the same time, because when I was in the Tempest, we were on Anagram, and I think Furio was on Anagram, which was after UKDK. So our paths crossed without knowing it.
Hardly, yeah. Well, that only lasted a short while, because we had Albert DeLuca, or wherever his face was, from G Loves Jezebel on guitar. And I say, we didn't really get on. We did what we did. We produced something, and it all fell apart.
So this is the weird period, because people said post-punk, and then obviously with our house coming along as well, people started saying goth.
Yeah, it was bordering on that.
But you didn't know about it until you were told. When the press came up with that tag,
Yeah.
you didn't know that, did you?
No.
UKDK was
No.
goth.
No, I would never have said that myself. I was quite surprised to hear that that's where we were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as I say, I was in Tempest, so we did our album with Anagram. And then obviously with quite a few local people involved. Mark Reefoy, who was in some local bands before, and obviously ended up in Spaceman 3 and Spiritualised. And he's still doing stuff as well now, Slipstream and other stuff. And he did play with Pet Shop Boys live. And the other members they came from other bands like Wesley's, and you probably remember a guy called Alan Entage.
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah, Alan set up a recording studio in London.
Yeah.
And sadly, he's no longer with us. You know, that's a few years ago now. But he did a lot of stuff. So it's quite amazing how many people in those bands went on to do lots of different things. You know. Al mentioned Bauhaus. Graham's here, obviously about from Bauhaus and all that stuff. But how did that whole thing with Pete Murphy occur?
Well, that was mostly instrumental through Graham. Graham was doing a lot of shows, a lot of events.
By the way, Bauhaus has split up.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the first time.
Even before Bauhaus split up, I was very close to Graham, and anything that he needed doing, you know, I'd tag along with him, and I got to see bands, you know, got to see how the business worked, and he trusted me with his gear. We just moved around together.
Yeah, if you don't realise, Graham Bentley, this man here, was probably one of the few people with a video camera at the time. You know, it was like a proper massive big camera, and the battery was the size of a suitcase.
Yeah.
So you probably needed two people to move it around.
Yeah.
But without Graham video and things at the time, we would have no record of what was going on.
Absolutely nothing at all, because nobody else was doing it.
Well,
I don't think anybody knew.
Nobody else could pick them up.
Nobody else had any kind of digital anything.
Yeah.
You know.
So because of Graham, you ended up doing stuff with Pete Murphy.
Well, I ended up just moving around with him,
Yeah.
and because we got familiar with each other and we knew each other, I think he just put my name forward, you know, to join his solo project. And I was given the opportunity of an audition. So, you know, and I cracked it.
So basically, this is Pete Murphy's solo stuff.
Yeah.
So did you write as a group of people, or did he write?
Well, I think he did most of the writing at the beginning with Howard from the Western Approaches. But as time went on, Howard drifted into the background, and the band kind of took over the role of writing and assisted Murphy with his focus wherever he wanted to go musically.
So how long did that last?
Gosh, 15 years.
Certainly into
15 years.
early 90s.
96.
So you finished in 96.
96, we did the last tour. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely remember some of the singles initially, the cover version of Perry, the Final Solution.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was good. Yeah, I remember that. So I would have ended up starting Venus Flytrap about 1986. So I remember seeing sort of Bauhaus finish, and then obviously the others went on to do Little Rockets and Tones and Tail and things like that. So obviously I've been doing Venus Flytrap since then, so that's been quite a long time. So why did it end? I know Bauhaus had reformed quite a few times, but why did that particular period end for you?
I really don't know the mechanics of it all, but there was some sort of conflict between Murphy and what he wanted to do next, and the rising popularity of the 100 Men, his band. I don't know, somewhere in America someone coined the name, and then we became the 100 Men, and it stuck. People started writing it down. So yeah, it was myself, Turl Bryan, Pete Bonus from Bedford. Turl was from Kettering, Pete Bonus from Bedford, and Paul Statham.
So basically still involved in music after Murphy.
Was I?
Yeah.
Yeah, after Murphy, but that, being in that band with those guys who were pretty much consummate musicians, you know, I had to really pull my socks up. So things just got better and better after that, working with them. But I say, the band got that good, and being together for 15 years, we were like family. We knew every little nuance, anything anyone said or did, we understood, we followed. And the band just pulled together. Rehearsals were quick and snappy. Playing live was great. And it's, you know, the business that the Beatles used to talk about not breaking up the band.
So what have you do since? I mean, I haven't seen Eddie for a long time, and we kind of bumped into each other. I don't know how many people know Pete, who used to run the racehorse, but we were at Pete's wake, and that's probably the first time I've seen you for quite a long time.
Yeah.
But, you know.
No, I haven't been doing very much since those days. Kids have all come along, and I've just been doing a regular 9 till 5. And that's it.
That sort of brings us up to date. So you can see what happened. Because of that initial explosion of punk, it propelled us on this journey. And if that didn't happen, we probably wouldn't be involved in music at all, or on the edges or whatever. How are we doing for time, Graham?
No
What's
idea.
time?
It-
34, half an hour.
Okay, right. Seems we kind of got through that quite quickly. Have we got any questions?
So where did you record back in the day?
Who are you asking, Andy?
Generally,
Well, you know where I am. Because
Yeah.
you're in my band. You're in Venus Flytrap,
yeah,
you know.
I'm talking about the sort of like the late 70s, because I wasn't playing then, so I didn't.
Well, Beck Studios was... There was a place in Northampton called NSR, and that was like a very traditional studio. I remember the eyesores going in there, and then the grand piano. And we obviously were a punk band. Probably only been together 6 months, gone in there, and it's this big grand piano. I thought, what's going on here? And then the guy had a little booth, and you could cut a record as well. You cut an acetate as well, and that's the NSR. But it was, there is a compilation CD of the stuff that was recorded there, but more sort of the 60s, maybe the early 70s. After that, it stopped. But the guy was a really big influence on local bands. Would have been Beck Studios, Derek at Beck, and he recorded most of the Northampton bands. In fact, Bella and Ghosties Dead was recorded there at Beck. So without him, I don't think it would have been the same. You know, I don't think UKDK did any stuff there.
No. We did all of our recording at Southern, at the Crash Studio.
And that's another story.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Tony?
Yeah, go on. I now live in Amazon, where the course was written, and I love living across the road from the house that the guys lived in. I moved down here about 6 months after the bugger off the States, I thought. Bands you play with, guys, the best band and why, and some stories about the guys that you supported. Eddie first, because I know you've been around, mate.
What did he say?
What's the best band you supported?
The best band we supported. Wow.
Well, while he's thinking, I saw as well we
No,
played.
so the thing is,
Right.
the band that I do remember supporting was Killing Joke. Aylesbury Friars, Killing Joke. That was a thrill for me. But much after that, working with Murphy, we were always the headline band. So, you know, I didn't see very much of the support acts. I remember Jewel was one of the acts that we had. I had no idea who she was, but I knew the boyfriend. What's the little boyfriend here?
The guy from New Model Army.
Huh?
Justin from New Model Army.
No, the actor.
Oh, right. I thought you... The Jules.
No, Jewel, the female.
Oh, okay.
Female.
Jules. Joolz. Jules.
No.
Oh, right. Who are you talking about then?
Jewel.
J-W-E-L.
Sorry?
W-E-L.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
There was.
we'll have to come back to it. I can't remember his name.
Anyway, I think the
He's a
eyes...
famous guy,
Yeah.
actor. Was
Jude Law.
well,
I'll just make it up. Charlie Chaplin.
yeah, could have been. It was as short as Charlie Chaplin.
Did
Yeah.
she have a moustache?
I think you had 9 Inch Nails supporting you.
Well, I was coming
Because
to
you.
that one, right?
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah.
Yeah, 9 Inch Nails.
Yeah.
9 Inch Nails was probably the biggest band that supported us. And to me, they kind of overtook us in a big way. After that, sorry?
Sean Penn. Sean Penn.
Thank you.
Mother Google.
Well done, Sean Penn. And I remember standing at the side of the stage, watching Joel, and everyone's going, do you know who that is? I'm going, who? And this little fella standing in front of me. Don't this weird, Sean Penn. I thought, you're joking. Anyway, Sean Penn.
Operated another, financially. But the Tempest, again, I think Tempest, we supported Bauhaus on their last nights at Hammersmith Ballet when they split up for the first time. A bit like your job, they got sacked 3 times. They split up and reformed many times. But anybody else got any questions?
I've generally found that Northampton has been a pretty accepting place of all sorts of different alternative people. But how was it for you guys when punk first came onto the scene? Did you get much backlash, or did you find it was pretty easy and people were quite excited about it?
I think, if you saw the press at the time, like the Sun and people like that, they hated punk. And obviously you'd have different tribes then, definitely. It was very tribal, and you certainly had how the town is. So, but you wouldn't go to certain places, you go to just certain places where everybody else was, and you'd be fine there. It's just getting there, getting from one place to another. But you never had any problems, did you, Eddie?
No, surprisingly enough, I had no problems. No, seriously. No, I was expecting to have problems. Because I say I didn't have a huge group of friends or whatever. I moved around on my own. But I never had any problems. The only people that I saw giving anybody any problem was either the police or the squares. All those disco kids. They'd come across the road to kick us and push us around. That's the most annoying thing from those days. Other than that, everything was cool.
Yeah, saying that, I do remember this period in politics was quite interesting because the NF were quite strong. And I do remember gigs, especially the county, where skinheads would come in and cause a lot of problems with punks, especially picking on punks. So there's certainly that mix in the politics. But out of punk as well, there is definitely a political edge. And a lot of the punk bands played at Rock Against Racism gigs. Anti-Nazi league gigs and anything like that. I remember the first couple of gigs with the ISILs, we did one in Wellingborough as an anti-Nazi league gig. So immediately there's I think punk seems to align itself with more liberal attitude, you know. Yeah, there's a lot more women in punk bands and rock bands and things like that. So it's quite an important time politically as well. You know, a lot more accepting, I think, the people immediately. And obviously a lot of the post-punk bands were even more interesting. There was a lot more political things going on there. Any more?
Any more for any more?
One Freddie,
Yes.
obviously growing up, you sort of know these bands, all great fun, etc., blah, blah, blah. At what point, if at any point, did it become a job and the fun went out of it?
So I want to ask you to do this.
Towards the end of UKDK and through the period with Murphy, it got serious business and very musical. You had to know your stuff to get on, especially with the group of people that we were then mixing with and the calibre of stuff that Murphy was demanding from you. You had to knuckle down and perform. But I enjoyed the challenge. It was good. It was good for me. From where we started, didn't know A from B, literally, to knowing all the scales and all the movements and cadences and all the business, and learning from everybody that you met. You know, all the different bands that you'd meet. They all brought something to the table and you think, oh, that's good. You know, and things just got better and better and better. Your mind just starts to expand more, you know. Meeting Earth, Wind and Fire. Tremendous. That was a real experience meeting those guys. You know, you pick up so much musically. I didn't like their outfits or some of their attitudes, but musically, you couldn't help but soak it up.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Alex, I've got a question for you.
Oh, good.
Going back in this era, sort of late 70s, early 80s, it was always hard for bands to break through because it was the nature of the beast and not much has changed on that front. But back then, you did have a thriving record industry. Today, you've got Phil here, who does a lot of promoting, as you do, Alex, and one or two others in this room. How hard do you see it now for the future of
I'm glad you asked that question. Well, I remember with Religious Overdose, we pressed a single, and literally we went down to London and met up with Glass, who were based there. We'd get these boxes of records. We go round to Rough Trade, Small Wonder, Beggar's Banquet, and other shops and mail order, and there were small distributors as well. We just roll up and go, oh, we've got these singles, do you want any? And they went, all right, we'll have 10. And they just bought them straight off. They didn't know, they'd never heard the music. But I think that attitude is different then. People were prepared to take, you know, they heard, oh, it's punk, it's new wave or whatever, I'll have it, I'll buy it. I do remember working at Smith's on a Saturday, and they'd say, oh, these new punk records are coming in, because we set up a deal with Small Wonder. We just buy them. And straight something, oh yeah, it's a punk record, or it's a new wave record, we just buy it. Right, okay. So it's a lot easier to produce records and also sell records, because, you know, John Peel was on Radio 1 for a start, which meant he had a lot of listeners. So you got one play on John Peel and you'd sell a lot of records just because of one play. Now, you can hear any track you like now, but the problem is, to get the same kind of coverage as, say, John Peel did, you have to be on thousands of radio stations to reach as many people as he did. Because his listeners were, they really were into their music. So it's great. I use the internet a lot because I promote a lot of stuff. So it's great in one respect, but also it's not because everything's available, there's no value. So I've kind of come to the conclusion now that if I speak to bands about doing stuff, I say, fine, do all the Spotify and whatever, but produce physical stuff. Records, CDs, T-shirts, because that's going to be your money, not anybody else. It's not this kind of increment you get from Spotify, like you need about 2 million plays or streams before you get like 10 quid. This is kind of going back to the DIY thing. Take control of your own stuff and do it yourself, produce it. Learn how the mechanics of it works. That's what we did. We learned to produce our own tapes and produce our own records and actually go out and sell them ourselves, rather than relying on somebody else to do it. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, I just think now the industry is I've never seen so many young up and coming bands ever, and there's no one there to support them. And then on top of that, you look now at gigs, and nearly every other gig you're going to see is a cover act.
Yeah, that's definitely a disease at the moment.
It is, and it's only getting worse.
Well, I don't know the answer to that one, but
Why?
you know the answer.
No, mate.
All right. Eddie doesn't know the answer either. Anybody else have any questions?
I was just going to ask you something.
At home, I still keep my hand in, play anything and everything that I can get my hands on. Put all the TV adverts on and just sit and play it all. Just enjoy myself. Keep myself all limbered up. One of these days I might come and do something, I don't know.
Yeah, well, if you can get him over, Mike's over in, this is a strange thing, Mike, who was in Guillotine, ended up in Taiwan.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened, but he did.
English teacher.
He's an English teacher, so he ended up, but he still plays, doesn't he? He plays.
Yeah, he's very popular over in Taiwan. He does tours all over that region. Yeah, he's a big star.
Strange.
And he's an English teacher.
Yeah, but there might be a Guillotine Reformation next year sometime.
He sent me a message through Facebook because he spotted this event tonight, and he says, "Oh, good luck to this business tonight, Ed." I said, "How do you know about that?" He's been keeping up with everything that goes on here from over there, all through lockdown. He knows what's going on. So now he's decided that we're going to do another album. So, typical Mick, he's posted all the connections, all the little modules in that lot. He's posted it all to me. Just hook it up, Ed, and we'll do it all down the internet. I'll mix it here and bounce it back to you, and we'll work it together. So I'm going to get my daughter on singing, and whoever else wants to go on backing vocals and get it going.
Okay. Anything else? How are we doing for time, Graham, anyway?
8 minutes, I think.
8 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I've got there's some books and CDs and stuff and LPs like that, if anybody wants to have a quick look. Because we're going to be out there by 8:30 or something. But I think I've said it a few times. We're going to go to More Collective, which is a bar at the top of the road on the right. And then if you want to speak to me or Ed, we're quite happy to have a chat. Because I think we're going to run out of time in it anyway. So thank you very much. Thank you, Ed.